Welcome to another episode of Rewrite the Rules, where we interview successful women leaders across Asia. Today, our guest is Ursula Chiang. Ursula has 20 years of experience working with technology, customers, and leading teams. She currently is working at PayPal in Singapore. Welcome, Ursula.
Thank you, Ritu.
But before we start, I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. So, as most of people can tell, I have an Asian face. So I was born in Taiwan, and I spent my childhood and also majority of my education before junior high school in Taiwan. And around age of 15, 16, I moved to Vancouver, Canada.
Wow.
So I finished my high school and university and started a career in Vancouver. My background was originally in computer science. And so I started my career as a software engineer and then eventually moved into people leadership. And in 2011, that was after 20 years in Canada, I moved to Singapore to pursue career opportunities. And then I have ever since been in Singapore for 15 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ursula, as you look back, because you've spent so many years in Canada and now in Singapore, what have been some of your strategies that have worked for you in your career and in general in life?
So there are a few things I probably would say that it made a impactful change, differences for my career. But I think the one thing that really worked for me was that I recall that after I started with my third company, I realized that I was much more passionate and keen and confident in the role that I perform in the company. And then also I realized I was really willing to do more, ask more, and raise my hands to get new opportunities. And eventually I think back and I ask myself, why do I feel different with this job versus the previous ones?
Right. Then
I realized that because for the third company, the role and then the nature of the work really offers what works for me, which is I get to work with people, I get to work with customers, I even get to see how my effort or even my day-to-day decisions eventually impacted the user of our work results. So I think that became really important for me. That kind of brought in the warm part of the role into the job, right? So that's why I really, really enjoyed. And then I think that time and time again, my career path and then also my career transition and work changes, time and time again proved that, yes, this works for you. So eventually I realized, okay, you know what? There's this piece of work and area where I can really enjoy and really put work into it and still enjoy it and eventually may end up being good at it.
Wow. And was there anything that made you realize that, because all of us, as you rightly said, we take a bit of time and then realize this works for us. What was that moment for you? When did you really realize that, okay, this is what I really love or this is what I really want to pursue?
I think there was a few projects that I did during that company, and then we were a very small company, and then we somehow luckily landed on some really famous and then big premium clients. So we get to actually fly on site and meet the customers, meet the users, and listen to them talking about, okay, why this doesn't work for them, why they want improvement on certain things. And then I was able to actively participate in those conversations. And then the next thing I know is that I realized that I'm putting in extra hours to kind of polish it, making it good. Because then I realized that, wow, knowing that I'm helping other people's quality of life at work and performing their day-to-day work actually is important for me. And then I really enjoyed that process. I met a lot of interesting people, not in the company as our customers. Some of them I even managed to maintain longer term friendship with, right? So that I think that was a pivotal moment that I realized that, wow, I really enjoy this. I like looking at this. And then the other thing is probably on the people leadership side, which is again coming back to me enjoying working with people.
Right.
So then, that's how I actually start stepping into people leadership roles.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things you mentioned as you were talking about how you want to know how it impacts people, how you're curious about, what you're doing ultimately lands with people or getting together people's ideas and making it work as a team member. What do you think is the importance of just being curious in one's career? Because that's one word that's really trending right now, to be curious. So tell us a little bit about your approach to curiosity and how's that helped you?
Okay. So it actually obviously all started with me being in a smaller team, leading a smaller team, and then wanting to do a little bit more. And I think that I realized that and learned about it earlier on in my career that, okay, if you kind of want to move up and have more responsibilities, you need to acquire more responsibilities. Yes. And one of the better way of asking for it, getting it, is to really ask for it. Yeah. I kind of feel like, okay, just raise your hands and ask. And then sometimes it even doesn't necessarily be anything, but you just go to someone and say, hey, I have always been interested to try if I can do this. If you have this opportunity, then keep me in mind, right? And I'm not afraid of going back and remind that, not necessarily for pushing it, but just saying that, hey, I want to put myself out there and say that I'm interested in this. And then also the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. If something works for me, then I enjoy doing a good job at and tirelessly, relentlessly. So one of the mission is that we should try to expand that piece. Yeah. So that you have more options that you can get passionate about. But before you know what's out there, you don't know what that is. Yes. Right. So I'm always quite open to kind of understanding different industries, different roles, or how things work out there, and then even when people like recruiters come to me and say, hey, you want to hear this? I always like, okay, I'll make time and hear about it. Yeah, maybe it doesn't guarantee that I will always end up pursuing the opportunity. And also in a way, it keeps my confidence up, knowing that, hey, there are actually a lot of things that I can do out there, but I choose to be here doing this because I still love it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's such an interesting take, actually, is because a lot of time, what people do is they wait when they really need a job, and that's when they start, talking to recruiters or talking to other people to get a job. But I like your approach where you're saying, if somebody calls you, if a recruiter calls you, take that call, figure out what's the role they're offering you. Do you have what they're looking for? And the other thing I really liked is also, it builds your confidence because, you realize, you are you can do this and more. And of course, as you said, the company has to really be good enough to kind of keep you still there in that role so that you don't go out. But that's a really interesting take. I haven't heard too many people talk about it, but I think that's an actionable that all our listeners can do is if a recruiter calls, take that call, right? I want to go back to the transition between Vancouver and Singapore. What was the transition like? I mean, I would assume it was quite drastic, right?
It was actually. So, well, for starters, the weather is completely different. Yes. So Vancouver has beautiful summers for 2 months, if we're lucky. And we have a lot of rain. So honestly, for the first few years after I moved to Singapore, I felt like I'm here to cash out all my sunlight for the rest of my entire life. But the culture is indeed, I think, very, very different. I felt that in Vancouver, people tend to be more chill. And then after I moved to Singapore, I realized that things go so fast. It's efficiency, everything's clean and tidy, but it's also very business-like. Yes. Right? So I think it did take me a little bit of adjustment. I think I've been with PayPal since 2012. Yeah. And then I think PayPal's culture that carries a bit of America startup, like tech company culture that actually really suited me since I was also from the tech background. So that really worked out for me, kind of gave me a little bubble to stay in, right? But then I do enjoy Singapore's how it is international,
Yes.
but it still has that very Asian touch.
Yeah.
But yet you get to get exposure with a lot of people from different backgrounds, which actually kind of reminds me of home in Vancouver, because in Vancouver is also really international. A lot of people from different backgrounds work together in the same place. So that part actually didn't change that much, surprisingly.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So now you've become very comfortable in Singapore. So how would it be if you ever were to go back?
Yeah, we think about it quite a bit.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, we do. And I think that after all, it is home for us. And then I think that if one day I do go back, I would actually continue to play a part in Vancouver's, for example, tech scene, maybe, or payment scene.
Sure.
And and I would think that, my experiences here in Singapore and then the exposure to different cultures and different teams and even different functions would actually bring some value and bring some, carry some, like, how should I put this? More like putting in, give myself a little bit of boost in the marketability. When I go back to Vancouver.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you, as you look back, or if you were to look back, what's one or two piece of advice you would give your younger self?
The short and quick one is probably going to be like, it's never too late to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
After I started working, although that was after my university, I started working and eventually I pursued a MBA degree. But then subsequently, I actually continued to enroll in several different courses and programs to make sure that I'm up to date and also have the skill sets and knowledge that I feel that I would need in the path forward. And then the other thing is probably that going back to, you need to be really honest about what works for you. So spend some time and with yourself and have a very, very honest conversation. No excuses, nothing but pure honesty, right? To talk about, does that really work for you? Do you really like that? Or are you genuine, right? Did you really try your best?
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important to know where you stand with yourself too. Yeah.
Yes. When was the last time you had that conversation with yourself?
I would probably say that that's last week.
Last week? Yes. Wow. Okay. So it's not an advice for like you do it once and it's done. You have to continuously do it.
No, right? I think that actually sometimes I will walk away for interaction and go, I can do better, right? Yeah. And then I'll go back and think about it. I'm an introvert, so I do a lot of these replay of that interaction and go, how can I do that better next time? I didn't really feel that was my best moment. Right? How can I do this better? Or do I even want to do better? Like, or maybe sometimes I get the conclusions like maybe I should not put myself in that situation again. So yeah.
Nice. What's next for you?
I'll probably still stay open-minded to see how this role continues to play out, and probably also somewhere like if there's something that's out there that's interesting. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Ursula. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure our listeners have got a lot from this. Thank you so much.
Hopefully. Thank you so much, Ritu.
Bye.
Bye.